What's good, everybody? So today I'm going to be bringing you my first Modern Warfare 3 video. To keep it simple, we're going to give you guys the best PlayStation 5 settings for those of you guys participating in the open beta, or for those of you guys just playing on PS5 in the future. So first, we are going to go into the PlayStation 5 settings. The reason being is because there's a setting that a lot of people forget to put on, especially for new PlayStation owners, so we're going to go ahead and cover it. We're going to go to the settings tab, and then we're going to go to the saved data and game app settings. When we are here, we're going to go to the game presets, and we are going to make sure that performance mode is on performance mode instead of resolution mode. This is pretty much going to make sure that we are always maintaining the highest frame rates, especially if we are trying to play this game at 120 hertz, which is the highest frame rate that the PS5 can currently support. So make sure that you guys go to game presets and make sure you select performance mode. If you've already done this on Modern Warfare 2, it should basically carry over, at least for the beta, because it uses the same app, which is now, I think, the Call of Duty app or something like that. Next, you're going to want to go to the Screen and Video tab, and you're going to go to the Video Output tab, and you're going to scroll down until you see the 120 hertz option, and make sure that this is on automatic. That way, the game supports the 120 hertz mode. After that, pretty much everything else doesn't really matter too much, so we're going to go back into the game. We're going to dive into our first couple of settings here. So first, we are going to go to the controller settings, and we're going to make sure that we have the best settings possible on our PS5 controller. So the first setting is the automatic sprint. I personally have this off, but I know most other people have this on. The reason I have it off is because of a setting that we will talk about in a second. But if you guys don't really care about that and you guys have always played with it on, go ahead and use automatic tac sprint. You're going to want to keep this on toggle. This means that if you press the sprint button and release forward, it's going to go back into like a normal walk. While if you hold it, you're going to have to hold down the whole time, and if you want to keep sprinting, which you don't want to do that. So we're going to keep that on toggle. We're going to keep auto move forward off. And then this is the reason why I don't use automatic sprint. And it's called single tap run. So what this allows me to do is I can still walk, and walking is very important sometimes because it allows you to be a little bit more silent, but it also allows you to keep your gun up without, having to sprint. So we're going to use single tap run. And the way that that's going to work on our controller is, in order for us to tac sprint, we only need to click it once instead of having to click it twice. So we're going to keep this on single tap run. That's my personal preference. We're going to keep our grounded mantle on off. And this is going to make sure that we don't accidentally mantle things when we're sprinting and we're trying to jump around corners and we like clip a ledge or something. We're going to keep that on off. We're going to keep our automatic airborne mantle on partial. And the reason why this is good is because if we are falling off of a ledge and we like get ourselves back up there because we accidentally fell, it's going to make sure that we safely remantle that. So next we're going to go to the automatic ground mantle. And again, we're going to keep this on off. It's pretty much like a similar setting to this. On the last iteration of Modern Warfare games, Modern Warfare 2, we had this on inverted, and now we're going to go back to standard. Reason being is slide canceling is back, so we need to make sure that we can slide cancel whenever we want, and having to hold slide doesn't really feel that natural, so we're going to go back to standard here. Plunging underwater, we're going to want to put this on free. It's the setting that I used on Modern Warfare 2. It just made it so it was like kind of easier to swim and like change directions. It was basically camera based instead of it being kind of like movement and stick based. It makes it just really easy to flow through the water. Sprinting door bash will keep on. Ledge climb behavior we will keep on a movement only or mantle only. Aim down sight behavior will keep on hold. Change zoom shared input. We're just going to keep it at default. Equipment behavior hold. We're going to keep that at default. Weapon mount activation. So for the CDL, we don't actually mount, so I've just kind of always left this on default. You can always take it off, but I just kind of leave it on default in case I ever want to mount in like public matches or if I play Warzone, but I don't really touch that. But the tactical ADS activation and tactical ADS behavior are two new settings which I'm going to cover. I personally don't know if this is going to be allowed in comp. However, for those of you guys that like to play pubs, I personally think the best setting is ADS plus sprint. So anytime you want to go into that tactical stance, I think ADS plus sprinting is probably the easiest combination to do. All you have to do is literally aim in and then click your left stick down, which makes this a lot easier. While ADS and meleeing kind of feels a little clunky, especially if you play like claw or something, or maybe you don't have like a back button. And then ADS and down D button would just feel really weird, and you would have to take your thumb off of the left stick, which will make it so that you're basically not moving. Unless you're clawing, then you're clawing your left hand. I don't really see this being good. And then if you guys don't really care about tactical ADS at all, you can always have this off. But for those of you guys that do, you want to have the next setting on release ADS. The reason being is if you don't, these two settings will basically make it so that whenever you're in a tactical stance, you will be stuck in tactical stance unless, a required action happens. So always will basically make it so that if you want to get out of tactical stance, you'll have to hit this button combination again, which seems really clunky, and I feel like it will cost you if you get stuck in tactical stance. Partial will basically make it so you will be in tactical stance until you die. Once you die and come up off spawn, it'll go away and you'll be in normal stance. You'll have to go back into attack stance again, which I don't think is a good idea. And then you'll want to put it on release ADS, which basically means that if you go into tactical stance, once you unaim in, once you do any other action, you will go back into your regular, stance. So definitely put this on release ADS. Interact reload behavior. I am a COD OG and I don't really play a lot of Warzone, so I've always kept this on tap to reload. But I know a lot of other people like to put this on prioritize interact, which allows you to kind of get the best of both worlds, where if you are not standing next to an interactable, item or door or anything like that, if you click square, you'll reload. If you are standing next to something that's interactable, if you click square, you will pick it up, you will open the door, you will do whatever. And you'll have to hold to reload if you are near those objects. I personally just never got used to it, so I had never played Warzone, so I just never really cared to use prioritize interact or reload or anything that stuff. So I stay on tap to reload, but that's pretty much the explanation of these settings. Next, you'll want ADS stick swap on off, weapon mount, exit delay, medium. Doesn't really matter. This is all default. If you don't weapon mount, then it doesn't really matter. And then the rest of this you can just leave default. It's pretty pointless unless you are messing with those specific settings. Next, we're going to go to our default controller settings, and then we are going to go into our edit button layout. So this is where you guys can customize your actual button layouts, and now you can even kind of like use these as like a template as you customize your settings. So they change this window up a little bit. I play on tactical flip, so we're going to keep that there. Bumper pings we leave on off. We're obviously going to flip our triggers if we didn't already flip them. We're going to take controller vibration off. Stick preset is going to be on default, obviously. Trigger effects, if you're a competitive player, I really wouldn't recommend playing on haptics because it's unnecessary. Dead zone inputs, they added this, which is kind of new, so you can actually test your dead zones if you click this, and it will tell you if you have any sort of stick drift and on what stick and by how much and blah blah. But I personally usually keep my dead zones the same, even if there's some minor stick drift, and I usually get another controller if I need to, but I keep the left stick on 2, so that means it's really easy for me to move my left stick, and the inputs are basically damn near instant. And then left stick max means that you see that outer ring, the outer red ring. It means in order for me to be at 100% left stick, I only need to move it up until, it hits the red. So if I want it to be basically instantaneous, I would put it on the lowest dead zone possible. But the reason why you don't do that is because sometimes you need to make minor adjustments with your movement. And if you have it really too high up and you accidentally move forward a little bit too much, it could throw you off with things like, let's say you're prone and you want to kind of stand still, or you're crouching, you don't want to move, or you see what I'm saying? Like, you don't want it to accidentally trigger a movement. So I feel like somewhere around 75 to 80 is fine, because you can still get that balance of like, okay, I want it to activate quickly, but I also don't want to activate things on accident. So we are going to keep it at 75. Right stick minimum, I've always played on 5 pretty much since they added the dead zones in, I think, what game was the first game that we could customize our dead zones? I feel like it was Modern Warfare 2019 where we could first customize our dead zones. I could be wrong, but I've always played on 5, so I kind of just leave it there. It just feels the best to me. 99 is also the default. I think 5 and 99 were like the defaults for, I think it was Modern Warfare 2019 on PlayStation 4. So I've always just kept it on these. Something else that other people recommend, though, is that they you tune your minimum dead zone to the point where you no longer have stick drift. So if you want to do that in the game, you actually can now. As you can see, if you go to the lowest dead zone here and you still get your right stick, I technically have no dead zone on, or I have no drift on 0, so I could hypothetically leave it there and I wouldn't really experience any stick drift until obviously I wear out the controller a little bit more, and then I get to that point where I start getting stick drift, and then I can gradually make it higher. But I feel like that kind of messes with your like muscle memory, because you constantly changing your dead zone to reach like a different point would mean that your inputs, regardless of like where you move your stick, we're gonna feel different every single time. So I usually just stay on 599, and if my stick drift gets insanely egregious, I will just get a new controller. So L2 and R2 button dead zones, I personally think if you shoot with triggers, you should probably make these the lowest possible, or maybe slightly, like give a slight dead zone. This basically makes it so your triggers activate immediately when you press your triggers, which I think is very important, especially if you're shooting. For nades and stuff like that, I don't think it really matters, but we'll put it on 1 anyways. And that's pretty much going to do it for the controller settings here. We're going to go into the aiming settings now, and this is where some of the stuff is more preference based. So I've been playing on maximum sensitivity for like I think a month now or more, I think. It's been pretty fun, so I've kept it there. I will probably not play on maximum sensitivity when I start playing competitive stuff again. I might lower it, but I'm already pretty used to high sense. I'm not entirely sure, but it's been pretty fun to actually play on. I feel like I've actually had good results doing so. Obviously, when I get the PC beta and I get a feel for how the controller and everything feels on there, as opposed to the PS5, I'm going to change it. But yeah, this is where you customize your settings, your sensitivity. I have mine on 1x 2020, and then I don't touch the rest of this stuff, but you can. Sensitivity multiplier, I don't touch any of this stuff. This is actually kind of cool because when I played Warzone, my sensitivity was really high on the tablet, and it was really annoying. So being able to change your tablet sensitivity is great. Next, we are going to go to the tactical stance sensitivity multiplier. So for those of you guys, obviously tactical stance is new. You can actually change your sensitivity while you're in tac stance. It's obviously going to be relative to your actual turning sense, but you can actually change the sensitivity of that specific stance here, which is kind of cool. I just leave it on 1x. I'm just so used to it. Next, you're going to go to your aim response curve, and you're going to put this on dynamic. There's no point in playing on standard or linear. I don't even know why there are options anymore. Dynamic has just been the best curve since it was introduced in MWIII 2019. Pretty much gives you the benefits of being able to control your stick very finely and make fine adjustments, but also be able to snap and make snappy adjustments because of the way your stick responds to the aim curve that's put on it. I don't know the actual way it works, but that's the way it's always felt. It just feels like the most responsive curve for pretty much all ranges. You're going to put the ADS sensitivity transition timing on instant. This basically means that as soon as you ADS, your sensitivity multiplier kicks in, which is this 1x multiplier here. If you want, you can. Some people like to use gradual, which means that your sensitivity multiplier will slowly, gradually go into that setting. So it'll start fast and slowly go down until you're fully ADS, as opposed to the other one, which will immediately just hit your ADS sensitivity right away. I personally like instant because I think it adds to a more consistent muscle memory timing. So custom sensitivity presume, this is where you can customize your settings for different types of scopes. I personally don't have custom sensitivities. And then obviously you're in the aim assist settings, you're going to keep yours on. And this is where the preference kind of starts to come in. A lot of people thought that Black Ops was nerfed, but I personally have used both and I've found success with both. And sometimes I swap back and forth, but I am currently playing on default as, the game is kind of intended to play on the default setting for now, and we will figure out if the other one is better. Probably when I switch to PC. On console, I feel like default feels better. And then motion sensor aiming is the gyro aiming, which we do not touch. So we're going to keep that on off. And that's going to do it for our controller settings. So now we are going to go into our graphics settings. So the graphics settings on console are a lot, more simple. So we are going to go through this pretty quickly. Make sure you have on-demand texture streaming off. We do not want any of that stuff because it uses your internet and it's just unnecessary. So we are going to keep that off. World motion blur and weapon motion blur, we don't want blur. We're taking that off. Film grain, we don't need any of that graininess on our screen, especially with that battle rage stuff that's going on. If you got film grain up and battle rage, you're probably not even going to see anything. So we're going to keep that off. We're going to take depth of field off, and then we are going to turn on fidelity cast and the strength. It's kind of a preference, but I personally like my game to be as sharp as possible because it allows me to spot targets a lot easier, and it just helps with overall blur. So we're going to put our fidelity cast on 100 to make the game nice and sharp. 120 hertz refresh rate is the next setting. We want to make sure we have that on so we're playing at the highest frame rate possible. And then your field of view is kind of a preference. So a lot of people ask why I don't play on 120. Well, I'm a multiplayer guy, and on multiplayer, I don't feel like 120 is necessary. The maps are relatively small, and you're rarely in a space where you need to have that high of an FOV to pretty much see everything. Also, when you're playing on a lower or a higher FOV, things appear smaller, which means that they technically have a smaller aim assist window. And like in general, it's just harder to actually see the target. So I don't feel like it's really beneficial. I feel like you want your targets to be as big as possible without sacrificing too much of the benefits of having a higher field of view. So for my personal preference is 105 right now, but again, it's a setting that I've swapped, on and off of different settings. I personally would go and play 105 to, let's say, 95, the lowest, probably with our new age of, Call of Duties. Next, we're going to go to ADS field of view, and we're going to play unaffected. Independent is a setting that some pros have dabbled with, and it basically allows you to use that higher FOV setting, but when you go to actually aim in onto a target, I think you're at the default, FOV, which means that targets are ginormous, and it makes things a lot easier to hit. I personally might see a couple ARs return to this setting in this new Call of Duty. Reason being is there's not a lot of visual recoil, so things are going to be way easier to hit on this independent setting because there's not a lot of jumping. Because as you guys know, if you turn your FOV really high up, there's way less visual recoil than if you have it really low. But on this game, I feel like there isn't a lot of recoil in general, and there isn't a lot of visual recoil. So maybe playing on independent might be a good idea. I'll probably test in the future, but for now, I'm going to play unaffected like I did in Modern Warfare 2. And then we want our weapon field of view wide because it makes our weapon look smaller, so it gives us a little bit, more of a field of view benefit. And then we are going to go to our first person camera movement, and we are going to turn that all the way down because no one wants to have a bunch of rumbling and a bunch of shaking on screen. I feel like it's very disorienting, so we're going to keep that off. Inverted flashbang, we're going to keep that on, so that way whenever we get flashed, instead of seeing a big blinding white light, our screen's just going to go black, and it's going to be a lot easier on the eyes. Spectator camera, if you guys really care, you can put that on the game perspective. Brightness, my monitor, I play on 47. The default's 50. You can easily leave it on the default. I probably wouldn't move it up much. And now we've returned to a Call of Duty with red dots on the minimap. And I'm here to tell you that if you are not playing on safe area that is closest to the center, basically as zoomed in as possible, you're wrong. Reason being is you want to have the least amount of distance for your eyes to travel from the center of your screen to the top left corner of your screen. And that is because the minimap has red dots again. So whenever people shoot, especially in competitive, they give you vital information, vital positional information as to where they are and where they are possibly going to go after. So having that on, on demand is just super important. And I recommend lowering your safe area to as close as you possibly can to the center of the screen. And that's going to do it for our graphics settings. Now we are going to move over to the audio settings. I personally play on headphone bass boosted. Master volume, we're going to want on 100. Dialogue volume is something that I feel like people should turn down. I'd say maybe to like 50 to anywhere from like 30. This is going to basically be that announcer that is in your head that tells you, oh, they're capping A, or a streak is coming, or something like that. And the reason why is it's just so loud, and you don't really need it that high. As long as you can hear it, and as long as it's not jarring, that's all you need. Because there's a lot of times where I've noticed that the dialogue happens whenever I'm trying to find a sound cue, or my teammates, my actual teammates, are giving me a call out. It's just distracting. So we're going to turn that down to 30. We always have gameplay music off because we don't really care about the gameplay music. We want to just hear actual good information, vital information. The rest of this stuff I don't think matters. It's just like stuff for your microphone. Mono audio, you want to make sure that's off. Oh, and reduce tinnitus sound. We definitely want that on. It's going to make it so that ear piercing sound is just a little bit more dull whenever we get flashed. And then Juggernaut music, I don't really care for it. I'm going to take that off. Hit marker sounds, some people like it because they can hear like each hit marker hit the target, but I've started to play with none just because I feel like the hit marker noise was kind of distracting whenever I need to hear sound cues whenever I was shooting my gun. So maybe I'll turn it on this game, but for now I have them on none. Next, we're going to go to the interface settings, and I don't really use any subtitles, but here, this is where you guys can get a custom filter that will change how the game looks. This is the default. A lot of pros played on Tritanopia because they felt like it's slightly more saturated, but I think you can just add saturation on your monitor or color vibrance for my PC people. But if you don't like the way the game looks and you feel like it's a little too dull, try to use Tritanopia. It'll probably help you. And this is where you can customize your squad colors. I think this game, it's very hard to actually see your teammates. So I would recommend maybe playing around with this if you guys are having trouble, like seeing your teammates' nameplates. This pretty much allows you to customize every single option. Wait, this is new. This is really cool. So this is going to allow you to color code your teammates. So let's say you're playing in a tournament with 3 other people. You can customize what color each of your teammates shows up on the minimap. So I can put, let's say my AR player, my other AR player teammate as blue. I can make my SMG teammate green, and I can use my flex player as purple. So this makes it so you can color code on the mini map so you know what teammate is where. That is actually really cool. I wonder if anybody's going to actually do that. I wonder if there's like a set process as to who squad member 1 is, or 2 or 3, or if it just like randomizes in game. But this could be actually very, very, very useful for, you know, for the competitive side of things, which is crazy. Wow, this is new. This is awesome. I actually was talking about this setting a long time ago, where I was like, I wish I could color code like specific people on the map, because there's a lot of times where you look at the mini map and you see a teammate with you, but you don't really know what teammate is with you, and it would probably help. So glad to see that's in the game. Color filter, again, this is meant for just to make the colors look different. So color filter 2 is the one I think a lot of people used in Modern Warfare 2. So you can put filter 2 on, and then you can put it on both, and then have the color intensity high on both. This is going to make the game look a little bit more saturated. Again, if you're having those issues, try this. We're going to keep the minimap on square. Minimap rotation is on. You don't need the compass anymore, and I don't use the compass at all for competitive or multiplayer. If you guys are playing Warzone, the compass is still probably pretty useful. So if you're playing multiplayer, I would just turn it off. But if you're playing Warzone, I'd keep it on. On the crosshair, you definitely want to play on static. That makes it so that whenever you're turning really fast, the dot in the center of the crosshair doesn't like appear off center, where it's like moving and like swaying at all. So make sure that you guys play on static. Hit marker visuals, we definitely want that on. Damage based hit markers, we definitely want that on. That's going to make sure that we know if we are getting a kill, or if we're hitting somebody that has like Juggernaut or something. Or I think in Warzone it shows you if like you're hitting somebody with plates. I don't know, but we definitely want that on, so that way we know if we kill someone. I think the rest of this doesn't matter. You can turn on whatever, you know, telemetry you want if you guys want to see your ping here. We definitely don't really need the parallax effects, so we can turn those off, and that is pretty much gonna do it. That's gonna be every single setting on the PlayStation 5. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope this video was useful. We're going to continue to put out more Modern Warfare 3 videos and content in general. Be on the lookout for things like class setup videos, montages potentially in the future, and just basically any sort of informational videos that I can help you guys for, especially for my competitive people, right? You guys always want to have the edge, so I'll be making more videos in the future. But yeah, thank you all for watching. I appreciate it. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and tune into the streams, man. We've been killing it on stream lately, so it'd be awesome to see some of my YouTube people there. And especially if you guys are on Twitch, if you guys come and watch these YouTube videos, make sure you guys say hello in the comments so I know your guys' YouTube usernames. I'd appreciate it. Anyways, I appreciate y'all for watching. Peace.